you've ever seen that really sad TV show Intervention, what's the one thing they look for? The person to acknowledge they need help. Instead, it's the ones who tend to fail, like, nope, I'm good. Don't need to change anything. I got life handled. You go, okay. We're in a similar state here where the folks who are truly in charge of IndyCar so often believe we got a Meg.
Marcel Pruett. You read him on racer.com, Racer Magazine, of course, Road and Track. You've seen his stuff with ESPN. You might even listen to his podcast. But with all the madness that has been the IndyCar series over the last couple of weeks, we thought, man, we got to get Marcel back here in the Freak Nation to grill him on some things that are happening. Let's start with the first one, and David Malucas getting the boot from Team McLaren in IndyCar. I think we all saw it coming. But from your standpoint, was this fair for Malucas? Should they have given him a little bit more rope to repair that wrist?
Would have been totally different if he'd done a single race, right? This is signing someone during the offseason that you would hope would play out well, be a great contributor. But there's a question mark. There's a lot of angles to this, so we won't get into all of them because we'll put people to sleep, Kenny. But this is a kid who leveled up massively with this signing by McLaren. 2 years in IndyCar, midfield team, Dale Coyne Racing, kind of a great get your feet wet and learn a little bit and then see where you go type team. Rarely do you go straight from a Dale Coyne Racing directly to an Arrow McLaren. So this was a big co-sign by McLaren. Also, as I was told at the time, this was a bit of a, we'll see what this is. We're not signing him to some 3-5 year deal, whatever. It was a 1 year deal with 1 year team option after. They didn't know what they were getting, hoping it was going to be great. The problem here is, had he crashed at the opening race, I have no doubt that they would hold on to him for the rest of the year. As soon as he was ready, get him back in the car. The disconnect, though, he was never able to do a single race with the team. So when it comes to building that relationship, the on-track part that matters, it wasn't there. And with a pretty big lingering question mark as to when he'd be able to actually get in and do the core thing he was hired to do. I think the team said, we've already gotten to about the quarter, 25% mark of the season. We don't know when we would be able to get him in. Let's just go with the ones who we know can drive. I don't feel like he got a raw deal. I feel like, knowing that this is a bigger team with much higher expectations, I think he is more a victim of those circumstances. At a smaller team, they'd probably hold on to him. Here, they need performers right now.
All right. Before we get off the David Malucas subject, will he find another team, at least part-time, by the 500 and or before the summer?
He won't be ready before the 500. They're aiming for middle of June, possibly. That's a new timeline for his recovery. There's a single team in the series that has a entry that is not claimed for the rest of the season. That's his old team, Dale Coyne Racing. The second car, the number 51 Honda, it's the only one where after the Indy 500, they've not announced who will drive in that car. I don't believe they've actually signed anyone. They're actively looking for folks almost race by race to fill that spot. With Davey's relationship with the team, luckily his family is very successful, been able to support his racing financially. The only real way I can see him getting back on the grid this year, just to show folks that he's good and back and strong and capable, would be with Dale Coyne in their second car at some point later in the year. If not for that, I would fear for him, because if you can't get back out on track during a year where you've been hurt and no one has seen you're all the way back, right? People need to see that. They need the visual proof to know, okay, that kid is just as good as we saw he was last year. If he can't do that, I would have serious concerns about his ability to find a quality seat next year.
Marshall Pruett, Racer Magazine, ESPN, Road and Track, and again, your insider when it comes to all things open wheel, joining us here in the Freak Nation. With Joseph Newgarden and the repercussions of the push to pass issue that came out at Long Beach via St. Pete, have we heard the last of this? Are there other dominoes that are going to fall with Penske's teams and Joseph Newgarden?
I don't believe so, Kenny, and that angers me and it saddens me. Not a vindictive guy, not someone who wants to see more punishment for the sake of. What I want to see is Penske Entertainment, which owns IndyCar, Roger Penske's company, take this more seriously than they have. Couple things here. I'll try not to go too far off the deep end. Here's an idea. Of all the ways that a race car can be found to be illegal, to be cheating, the one that scares me the most, and I think most people the most, is when you get into the software and electronic side. I think we all understand if there's a rule that says your A-arm must be like this, or a wing element must be shaped like that. If a team goes out and tries to make one that's a little different, that can do things a little bit better, I think we get that. That's something you can check by hand. They have templates that say, oh, that profile doesn't fit. That's blatantly wrong. Get those off the car. When we're talking software, when we're talking wiring, electronics, and these little nerdy boxes that so few of us ever get to interact with, that to me is the scary part, right? What do you do? That's not a put the template on the car, fits, doesn't fit. This is one of those, we need to do a deep dive. The fact that there was a morning warm-up on Sunday at Long Beach, it ended at 9:30 a.m. Cars were on grid 3 hours later. There was no notification to the other teams that Team Penske had been found cheating. The owner of the series, whose cars were found cheating. That knowing this is in this kind of scary, what else could be in there type software irregularities and whatnot. The fact that these cars were allowed to compete 3 hours after they were found to be running illegally in morning warm-up, how are those cars not thrown into a locked transporter and taken back to Indianapolis? Well, here's an answer, because IndyCar isn't like NASCAR. They don't have their R&D center where anything that doesn't look right, doesn't sound right, whatever, gets impounded, sent off, and properly inspected. How could cars running illegally 3 hours before the race be allowed to not only compete in that race, but none of the paddock be informed about this? How is it, here's again, overarching thing, if Rick Hendrick owned NASCAR and competed in NASCAR, you would think there'd be some pretty strong wording, rules, and policies put in place, safeguards. What's the one team that could not ever be caught running illegally with that kind of crazy conflict of interest? Team owned by the guy who owns the entire series. If Roger Goodell, NFL commissioner, owned the NFL and had a team and was caught with Deflategate or something else, you would have to believe the other team owners would either put in place safeguards, or there would be, from the top down, safeguards put in place to make sure such a thing never happened again. You would also think there would be some sort of policy that says, we'll use IndyCar, there are 10 full-time teams. One of those is Team Penske, owned by the person who owns the whole series. If those other 9 teams get caught cheating, whatever it might be, IndyCar, the president, Jay Fry, his whole technical inspection team, I think those other 9 teams fall right into the domain of IndyCar's top cop, top referee inspecting those vehicles. What's the one team that you should never ask the people whose paychecks are signed by the guy who owns the series to inspect your boss, to investigate your boss? Why was there and is there no policy in place that says, in the crazy chance this were to happen, even though it can't, in order to protect the integrity of the sport, if this were to happen with the guy who owns the series, whose team competes in the series, and that team gets caught running illegally, this gets booted out of IndyCar's hands. We bring in external investigators. We bring in a law firm. We bring in all kinds of folks. One thing we won't do is ask our own employees to try and become detectives on their boss. It's unfair. None of those things exist. And so you go, okay, let's just kind of move on and go to the next race. This to me, and there are some other things we can explore as well in another day, but very long story short, this whole process, this whole encounter has exposed so many shortcomings in Penske Entertainment's design, its rules, just how it treats itself. It is saddening to me, but it comes back to one key thing. If we're talking about the NFL, where the commissioner owned the series and had a team running, playing, and they got caught, you got billionaires surrounding them with a lot of voting power written into their regulations. If this was Formula One, let's say Liberty Media, which owns Formula One, also owned Red Bull, and Liberty Media's team got caught cheating. Those other teams have a ton of power and influence to bring Liberty Media and that team under heel. There are no such things in place in IndyCar.
That's exactly
the other team owners have
yeah.
no power to correct or affect any of this, other than, say, refusing to put their cars on track in protest, and then they damage themselves and their sponsor. I mean, that's the disturbing thing here. There's nobody that can force Penske Entertainment to do anything differently than they so choose.
So how does that change moving forward? Who is going to be the one to implement better rules and regulations so this doesn't happen again? And so the series, Penske Entertainment themselves, doesn't have egg on their face yet again, or let's say, get away with it.
I'm wondering the same thing, Gladys. I have been wondering the same thing, because they're working on this charter system, right? That's supposed to get launched here in the next couple of weeks. And that's going to give team owners a little bit of say and a little bit of commerce ability. It gives them no power or rights. It doesn't allow them to make changes or demand changes to be made. I mean, the couple of things I think need to happen here, and none of them, I believe zero of them, will happen. Roger Penske needs to either sell the series, sell the team, or sell 51% of the series to the other team owners. So that, in a crazy scenario like this, the folks who put 24 of the 27 full-time cars on the grid do have a mechanism to say, nope, that's not standing. We're not doing it this way anymore, whatever it might be. As it is right now, if we're thinking about voting, those 9 out of the 10 team owners have no votes of any consequence that can change anything. So to answer your question, I would hope Team Penske would lobby their boss. I hope the other owners would lobby Roger Penske, would lobby the executive level, Penske Entertainment, to say, hi, we see how this has failed us and how this has embarrassed us. Would you agree you all need to rewrite some of the ways that you do things for the betterment of the sport? Because this couldn't happen the first time due to the conflicts of interest and all the questions it would raise, but it has happened. What are we going to do if it happens a second time? And it will happen. It just, by the numbers, give us however many years, every team's going to have some sort of problem at some point in time. It's going to happen again at some point in time. Will they do anything to improve their business structure, how they react to things, kicking things out of IndyCar's hands to an external investigator and so on? Will they do any of those things to show folks that they are true and serious about being 100% correct at all times? Or is this just going to be if we don't talk about it, hopefully folks will forget?
Marshall Pruett's the ultimate insider in American open wheel and sports cars. On a lark, Marshall, I went on AI this week and just put in, how can IndyCar increase its audience? got some very interesting responses. Several of them had nothing to do with the series. They had things to do with the teams and the drivers. Do they hold any responsibility for building up the audience in IndyCar so that everything is not on Roger Penske's plate?
It's an interesting question. If I start a restaurant tomorrow, Bill, and I put my name on it, Pruett Entertainment, it's a great new restaurant to go to. It's all kinds of fun.
Can't wait.
Who ultimately is in charge of making sure that folks know about my restaurant, hear about its attributes, given a reason to come, given a reason to partake and hopefully enrich me and have that business grow? It's me, right? I put my dang name on it. Even better, because this would be more accurate, Roger Penske chose to buy the IndyCar Series and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Choice. Teams certainly need to be a partner in this and helping the series, no question. They have weekly meetings between the series and teams, marketing meetings to talk about who's doing what, new ideas, etc. So teams in general are certainly trying to do their part, some better than others. Just watched an amazing Game 7 earlier today, NBA getting through the first round of the playoffs with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Orlando Magic, two smaller market teams. You have the same in IndyCar. You have some smaller teams who don't have as many huge stars that folks are going to gravitate towards. They don't have as much money necessarily or staff to go and hire waves of marketing and promotions experts and do as good a job as a bigger team. I realize the Lakers are out, but a Lakers, a Knicks, and so on, where you go, okay, everybody knows them. They are truly world famous. So you do have teams. You do have Arrow McLaren, for example. They are the unrivaled winners when it comes to helping IndyCar promote. They have the most popular driver in Pato Award. They have a lot of great things going on there. Andretti Global do a wonderful job. Chip Ganassi Racing has been doing more and more and really stepping up there. Even some of the smaller teams, Juncos Hollinger Racing, they're doing their darndest. Myers Shank, I do not question or doubt the team's efforts, like many of the smaller mid-sized franchises in major sports, to try and grow and build bigger fan base for themselves and the league they play in. But ultimately, the NFL does a pretty amazing job of letting the world know it exists, and it's amazing. You look at IndyCar, what has been the thing all four of us have known to be a major flaw for decades, predating Roger Penske's purchase? That is marketing and promotions. It is the independent, the little indie band we love that we go and see at the bar down the street. And they're amazing. If only the world could see them, they'd fall in love with them too. And you go, once upon a time they were huge, but again, now they're kind of playing bars and local dives. And we've seen what IndyCar was like when it was a raging monster, when NASCAR was firmly second place in the country's hearts in terms of motor racing. This, though, is a problem that extends decades in the rearview mirror. So I don't place all the blame. An idiot would say Roger Penske is to blame. No, not at all. He is only the latest person to acquire the series and take the responsibility for such things.
Hold on. Could I interject this real quick? He is the latest one to take on this responsibility, but I think when he did purchase the series, the track, the TV rights, people thought, oh, this is the guy with the resources. Not saying that he had to spend 100% of his pocketbook, but at least that he would come in with business resources, financial resources, and other resources to be able to make the necessary marketing and leadership changes. Yet that hasn't happened. And I guess that's what's the most puzzling to me and possibly others.
We allowed ourselves a flight of fancy to believe that indeed all of these magical things would happen with one of America's great success stories in Roger Penske. The thing we've learned or acknowledged, maybe come back to reality on, is this. Tell me about the TV commercial you saw to rent one of Roger Penske's moving trucks. I haven't seen them. They don't exist. Tell me about the commercial for the other things, the great marketing campaign, the print ad, the web ad. That is not how Roger has, by and large, built his business empire. I realize that he's a massive auto dealer, and those dealers, again, they do tons of marketing and promotions, as we would think. But if you think of the core competencies here, the big flashy ideas, the shiny objects that are going to get people to look at a racing series, great inventive ideas. Roger Penske, we will be writing books about him, about his business to business acumen, right? One of the great leaders of the businesses doing business with other businesses. That has nothing to do with marketing and promotions. That's all up in the hospitality suite. That is getting CEOs talking to CEOs, big business being done from that, profiting from that, funding a racing team. We hoped that with all this, there would be a massive bringing of skills, or to your point, Gladys, hiring of marketing experts throughout the globe to help get us there. And they have hired some people. They've added more staff. They have, of the folks who are there, especially on the digital promotion side, they have some phenomenal people. Just if you look at any of their rivals, size of the departments are vastly different. The funding committed vastly different. So even in the really positive areas where Penske Entertainment has made progress in marketing and promotions, it's still, compared to a NASCAR or a monolith like Formula One, drops in the bucket. So I can't blame IndyCar for being a smaller and less financially prosperous series. They're working with what they have. But at the same time, I bet Roger's going to invest $10 million of his own into new marketing and promotion side. He's not the guy to dig deep into his bank account just for the sake of. So it is a catch-22 and has been for many years, where we know how successful he is. We naturally associated grand success to follow with IndyCar. We've seen the car counts go up. That's been big, right? So there's been growth in the paddock, more cars. That's been fairly stable as well. The Indy Lights, now called Indy NXT series, which came along with the purchase, that was hovering at single-digit entries. It's now 20-ish or so. There are team owners who are clearly believing and buying into Roger and what he's doing and saying, we're going to commit more money, more cars and whatnot to the racing series that you own. But then we see the TV ratings for Barber Motorsports Park last weekend are down 100,000+ people year to year. The previous race at Long Beach was down 700,000 people from 2023, because in 23 it was on NBC. This year it was on USA Network, viewed by far fewer people. We see these rises in attendance, where I believe every points paying race we've been at this year, every promoter said, hey, we're up. Might not be double digit, but I mean, we're up. It's great. And so you see more people on site, but the TV numbers don't necessarily match. So there's this weird fluctuating thing where you cannot say everything Penske's doing is winning or everything Penske's doing is a failure. You cannot claim either side as being a linear fact. But what you can say is, boy, it just seems like we're on this constant roller coaster of, hey, this positive, oh, what are we going to get kicked in the behind on next? And so we get hit with something else. Hey, a new team from Italy, one of the biggest junior open wheel teams in the world, in Prema, is coming next year. It's phenomenal. It's awesome. And then we get the news about the Long Beach rating. And then, and then we got a cheating scandal. But hey, then Georgina falls off of the bridge at Barber, and we get the greatest motor racing meme in a long time. Like, you're constantly just, your head is snapping back and forth saying, what the hell's going on? I'll just mention here quickly, I'm not going to be at the Indianapolis Grand Prix this weekend. I'll be in Monterey for the IMSA race. And the reason I mention that is because I've told so many friends of mine, I just want to get to an IMSA race where it's just calm and the cars are amazing. And yeah, folks will yap a little bit about balance, performance, whatever, but it's just positive and the people there are happy. And we're not talking about nonsense one week and super highs the other and super, like, it's just calm and stable and good. Let me get to one of those, like a palate cleanser. And then I'm going to fly to Indianapolis the next day, and who knows what's coming there. But it has been we're what, 3 races in, 4 total events with that Thermal Club event. This feels like we've been through 4 rounds of a prize fight this year, and I don't know who the hell's winning.
Wow.
Marshall Pruett, I was going to ask you something else, but the IMSA and IndyCar, you're inside both series. Does IMSA have some things that IndyCar could learn from, and in marketing or presentation that would help grow IndyCar as much as IMSA has grown in the last 5 years?
It's really, really hard to say. IMSA has something like 18 auto manufacturers, official auto manufacturers involved across all of its series. It's just a very different environment. When you have those auto manufacturers invested in your series and helping to promote it, it just takes you to a different level, as you know. IndyCar has 2 amazing manufacturers in Chevrolet and Honda. Nothing confirmed, but we fear Honda will be out here in the next 18 months or so. We hope that won't be the case, but it's a legitimate concern. And what does IndyCar do from there? Here's the biggest thing, and I'll keep this intentionally very, very short. You talk to the leaders at IMSA, and they will tell you that they're very proud of the things that are working well. Everything they have is up, right? Attendance is up, TV ratings, just car count, everything is truly positive. There's no PR spin there. And they're proud of all that. And yet none of them are patting each other on the back, high-fiving, saying we're kicking butt and taking names. It's, what can we do better? What else can we do? What aren't we doing? What aren't we thinking of? What can we do better for the fans? Like, it's this never satisfied approach. When you hear from our friends at Penske Entertainment, that being very separate from IndyCar, the IndyCar operations team led by President Jay Fry and on down, but the actual senior executives who own the series, dictate all policy and such, they are constantly kicking ass and taking names. I tell you, I hear from folks, in particular team owners and whatnot, who speak with them on a regular basis, and they get these reports that says, pick the thing in this metric in this area. We are mollywopping everybody. And you stand back and go, okay, I know those numbers, and I know that there are other racing series, and I see their numbers. And if you were to turn the page upside down, we'd be at the top. But in reality, what are you seeing that none of us are seeing? Because you seem to be living in a place where you believe. I almost don't know how we could improve. That's how good we're doing. And it's this, what do they call it? Cognitive dissonance, where you go, come join the rest of us in reality. We're not here to pick on you. We don't want you to fail. We want you to succeed. We love you. You're so important to us. But if you are constantly feeding yourself this fantasy that you are P1, you got F1, NASCAR, you name it, just cowering in the corner. An awful lot of smart folks who are extremely successful in business, also permanent residents of reality, who look at the same situations and go, that ain't it, boss. That ain't it. So if you've ever seen that really sad TV show Intervention, what's the one thing they look for? The person to acknowledge they need help. Instead, it's the ones who tend to fail, like, nope, I'm good. Don't need to change anything. I got life handled. You go, okay. We're in a similar state here where the folks who are truly in charge of IndyCar so often believe, we got to make. It's just really hard to make improvements when that's the headspace you live in.
Freak Nation, racer, road and track, ESPN. He's got himself a snappy podcast. Again, sports cars, open wheel, Marshall Pruett, your go-to guy.
Yeah, he said snappy, Marshall. That
Snappy. Look at that.
Snappy.
It's usually people replace that S with a C, but I'm going to go in an R, and we get Anyways,
you take car maintenance seriously, and you want to pass on that legacy of care. Use Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer to shield your engine from excessive heat, debris, and friction. Trust Lucas Oil. It works.
The NASCAR Cup Series Enjoy Illinois 300 hits Worldwide Technology Raceway on June 1st and 2nd, and the racing will be rocking. It's more than just the cars, it's all about the party. Country music's hottest new star, Riley Green, Big and Rich with Gretchen Wilson, Brittany Spencer, Tim Duggar, and Ludacris cranking the party into overdrive. There's something for everyone, and your access to the Confluence Music Festival is included with your race ticket. Go to www.raceway.com now.
Freak Nation, head to your local General Tire dealership now to check out the latest additions to their product lineup. The Grabber family of tires are engineered for durability and feature innovative performance features that offer all-terrain capability, blending exceptional off-road durability and impressive on-road performance, all while sporting aggressive styling. For outstanding off-road performance coupled with strong street manners, look no further than General Tire. General Tire delivers for whatever you do, and the official tire of SpeedFreaks since 2001.
Dragging your knee at 100 miles per hour, doing a double jump with some extreme flair. If you're into two-wheel racing, make a standing date for Tuesday night on MAV TV. Two Wheel Tuesday will showcase the world's best motorcycle racers on the most challenging tracks. Whether it's the treacherous high-speed ballet of road racing or the handlebar-to-handlebar combat of the dirt arenas, MAV TV has your two-wheel fix every week on Two Wheel Tuesday.